What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Formula One Gridlock podcast. My name, of course, is Nathan Charles, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Chase Bozung. Chase, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am good, Chase. I'm good. My mic might sound a little bit different. I am in the basement of my house. My grandmother came up from Texas this week, so she is staying in my room, and I have been relegated to the basement for the time being. But next week, or whenever our next recording podcast should be, it should go right back to normal. I'll be in my own room. But
Nice.
Chase, I think we just need to get into it because I don't know. This was an interesting race, not one that I'll say it. I didn't love it. I didn't come away from it going, wow, that was a great race. It was kind of a mediocre race, but let's get into it. Let's do a quick race rundown, and then we'll get into the topics. All right.
Yep.
Taking first place, the defending champion, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, scoring 26 points, grabbing the fastest lap as well. Second place, the challenger this season, Charles Leclair, in the Ferrari, scoring 18 points. In third place, his teammate, Carlos Sainz, in the second Ferrari. That's a Ferrari 2-3. They'll be happy with that over the weekend. Carlos, of course, scores 15 points in third. Fourth place, Sergio Perez, the second Red Bull. Had a chance to get third. We'll talk about that. But ended up fourth and scores 12 points. Fifth place, George Russell in the first Mercedes, beating out his teammate, seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton in sixth. Seventh place, Lewis's old teammate, Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, once again dragging that Alfa Romeo, kicking and screaming into the points. Eighth place, Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. Ninth place, Alexander Albon in a Williams. That's impressive. We'll talk about that. 10th place, Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. We did have a lot of DNFs this race, Chase. A lot more than I thought we were going to. We get a few more there at the end, which there was a crash, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But we had two original ones. Well, not two original. Guan Yu Zhou goes out early in the race. Lando Norris toward the latter half, but still closely in the middle. And then we had Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel, and Kevin Magnussen all DNFing toward the end of the race. It's a lot of DNFs, and it definitely disappointing. A couple of those guys were having very good races. A couple of them were not, which I'm sure we will talk about as well. So, Chase, let's just get into it. Give me your three winners for this race.
My first winner is Max Verstappen. And this race was a really, really good race by him all around. And then it gets better considering all the problems he had during the practices.
Yeah.
And then he didn't get pole, right?
Yep.
But and also
started in second place, right?
Started third place. By
yeah, that's correct.
A non-existent amount of time. Carlos beat him out.
Yeah.
So starts third. First corner catches second. Yep. First corner he's in second place, and then I don't know how many laps exactly, but somewhere around like 10, 11 laps, grabs first place and then holds it for quite some time. I mean, he lost it because of pitting, but never really, air quotes, lost it, right?
Yeah.
So great race by him, and then those final 10 laps, oh my goodness, those were good. He did a great job defending there.
He did do a good job defending, but honestly, I never thought he wasn't going to win. Do you know what I mean? Like I was kind of like, yeah, Max kind of has this one. He just felt quicker on the day. Like that Red Bull car was just so good on the straights. Lost a little bit of time, I think, in the slower sections of the track, but on the straights, I mean, nobody was catching Max.
Yeah, and you really saw the straight line speed by the fact that Leclair got DRS in every single zone for like 10 laps straight at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be on the straight. It'd be 0.9 seconds, 0.900 milliseconds away, right? Mm-hmm. And he'd gain 200 milliseconds on Max with DRS. Mm-hmm. And that's incredible. With DRS, you're supposed to catch him. So great straight line speed.
Just barely closing the gap just isn't enough. And it just, like you said, it just proves how fast that Red Bull is in the straight line.
Yeah, I completely agree. So then my second winner. Oh, and side note here, Max still has 100% win rate this season for every race he does not DNF from.
Pretty every race he finishes, Max has won.
Yep. So my second winner is Mercedes as a whole, but I'm leaning more towards Russell here. But Mercedes, I mean, great race by them this week. They They got both of their cars in top 10, which is congrats. You're doing the Mercedes thing. And then 6th and 5th is pretty good. Right behind the two leading teams, which is exactly what you want.
Yep.
They still haven't fixed, in my opinion, the porpoising problem.
They have
I know
not.
you've noticed that too.
I
They
have
went
noticed it.
Yeah, they went on board with Lewis Hamilton at one point. His head was bobbing. I
It
cannot
is
imagine driving it.
it especially on the Mercedes, it is very noticeable. It is very,
Yeah.
very noticeable. They need to fix that.
Yeah, but besides that, they, from what I've heard, they came in with like a new front wing and stuff like that. They made improvements to the car, and it really shows. And then I just like I was watching Russell for most of the race because, as we'll get to way later in the podcast, I made a prediction with him, Russell. So I was paying attention to him, but Russell starts 12th position, has a bad start. I don't know if you noticed this, but the commentators were talking about how he was like slightly moving at the start, so he had to stop himself and then restart, and he lost like 5, 6 positions off the bat within the first lap. Uh, so he goes from 12th to somewhere around like 17th, and then ends it beating his teammate all the way up in 5th position. Once again, 100% rate for him getting in the top 5 this season. So just phenomenal by Russell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Not much more to add to that. I mean, George is a quality driver. We know that. And it does take a certain caliber of driver to fix those simple mistakes, and it also takes a certain caliber of driver to not make those mistakes at all. So I think George will take a lot away from this weekend, and I think that's good for Mercedes and good for George Russell and good for F1 as a whole. I mean, it is when we have good drivers on the grid, F1 and more competition with the top. That's just good for the sport. What can I say?
Yeah, I agree. And then my third winner of the weekend is, you touched on it very lightly at the beginning, Alexander Albon.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
have to congratulate the Williams driver for getting his car into the points again. I mean, I'll raise a question later on down the line in this podcast, or I could raise it now. It's up to you. But Albon is showing me, not that I didn't already know this, but it's showing me that, like, hey, maybe if you don't have a pay to win driver, they'll do well. And Russell did that for the last 2 seasons. So I
Yeah.
just really
Yeah.
impressed by Albon here.
No, I mean, I think we can get into that because I definitely also had Albon on my kind of talking points list. This was another really just I mean, he just got in that car and he drove. I mean, that's just a really quality drive from Alexander Albon, and I think you have to start looking at Williams as well.
Mm-hmm.
They've got new ownership. They've got more money coming in. They've
Mm-hmm.
brought in a team principal who is a proven winner. I believe he was either in, I believe he was in rally car. I believe he was in rally car. Yeah. The guy knows how to win. The guy knows how to create a winning culture, which is something that has
Mm-hmm.
been missing at Williams for years.
Yes.
They've got Alex Albon, who Red Bull considered to be good enough to get into their car. So you've got a
Yeah.
guy of a higher caliber than, obviously they've had George Russell for a while, but he had never really gotten a shot at a top team yet. Alex has had that shot at a top team. He knows how a top team operates. He can bring, although not a lot of experience, about half a season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about half a season's worth of experience, but still
Yeah.
any experience for a team that is really like starting again, a team that has truly like we are witnessing the rise of a brand new Williams team. Yes, it has the same name, but it has been gutted and there is new life being shoved back into this team. And so a ninth place finish is, for some teams, it's nothing. For some teams, that's a bad weekend. But for
Yeah.
Williams, every single point matters. And so Williams is going to
Exactly.
be, I think, so far this season, Williams is absolutely over the moon with Alexander Albon's performance.
I
And I
would
think
be.
and I think that Alex Albon could be a Williams driver for many, many years to come. This could just be his spot. Like this, he's a driver on the rise with a team that has his back and is also on the rise and knows and has that winning mentality. We could see Williams in a few seasons fighting for third, fighting for fourth. I mean, I'm kind of talking out of my ass here right now, but I mean, this is the start of something for Williams, and I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm liking it, and I think Alex Albon really is their guy for the future.
Yeah, I agree. And there's two questions I want to propose here, right? The first is, let's say you put someone like Kevin Magnussen in the car, or you put someone like Daniel Ricciardo, or name someone who's pretty good on the grid, right? Put them in a Williams.
Yeah.
Do they do as good? Meaning, like, is Williams at the point where you just put a good driver in the car and they just take it home, kind of thing? And then the other thing I want to propose is, I was thinking the other day, I was editing one of our TikToks. We're on TikTok, by the way, if you didn't know.
Give us a follow on TikTok.
Yeah, in the Formula One Gridlock podcast on TikTok. I was editing one of our clips, and we were talking about how good is the Haas, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I made a chart where it's best of the field, and I put Red Bull and Ferrari at the top. I made a chart that said worst, and I put Williams there. But as I did it, I said to myself, is Williams the worst car in the grid?
I don't think it is.
I don't think so anymore. And I think Albon's proving it. And I think Latifi is proving here's his skill,
Yep.
Because this is twice now. He's being bested by two of his teammates. And now you can't say it's the car. Last season, you could say it's the car. This season, I don't think so. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with you. I think that the way Alex drives the car is a direct reflection on this kind of the skill difference between him and a driver like Nicholas Latifi. And I like Nicholas. I've said this before. He's a very nice guy. He's a great dude. I don't know if he is at the level of a Formula One driver.
Yeah.
I just don't think so. And I think if not for the money that he brings in, he probably would not be at Williams. I think that Williams team wants to win, and I think they have probably realized, if they probably haven't told him yet, but they can't win with Nicholas Latifi. Yeah. Nicholas Latifi is a like a 10th place driver at best. On a great weekend, he's going to get you a point. But Alex, on a good weekend, I didn't really notice anything really going his way this weekend.
Yeah, he just did good.
Maybe a few DNFs, but he just can drive the car really, really well, and he's always in that spot when he has to. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think Latifi has a long future at.
I don't think so either.
Especially
with this kind of influx of influence and money coming into the sport. Williams is going to be getting new sponsors. They're going to be making up for the money that Latifi potentially brings in. I'm sure that money he brings in is nice. I'm sure it really helps the team, but at a certain point, they may not need it anymore. They might look at F2 and go, hey, there's this really, or, they still have a partnership with Mercedes. I mean, Mercedes, I'm sure, has some really good drivers coming up. So you might look at getting one of them in. But to answer your question about what would happen if you put like a really experienced driver in the car? I think that that a better driver makes the car better. I think we're seeing that very clearly this year with Valtteri Bottas and the Alfa Romeo. That car is probably not great.
And
Kevin Magnussen. Although Kevin Magnussen was pretty close to his teammate this race.
Yes.
I'll talk about Haas later because I do want to touch on them, but
yep.
I do want to focus on the Alfa Romeo and Valtteri. Like, that car is a middle of the pack car, but Valtteri's putting it up in 5th, 6th, 7th almost every weekend.
He's putting it places that car should not be.
So I think that if you were to put a excellent driver in the car, they would absolutely be able to get more out of it than somebody like Alex Albon. Alex Albon's a good driver. I'm not saying he's a bad driver, but if you put somebody with that is like a clear, like, top tier talent, I think you see a couple more places. Maybe they're finishing 7th instead of 9th. That's just my thoughts, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think you put Valtteri in it. Valtteri like drops 1 to 2 positions of what he's consistently getting now, but like I think he scores points every week.
It's possible. It's possible. It's so much about the setup of the car. It really is. And
Yep.
I think that Williams might be being what's the word? Like kneecapped almost. Like they're being hindered by the fact that they have a Mercedes power unit. Because they do have this relationship with Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
This Mercedes power unit is not good. It's
Not at
not
all.
good. Their cars have issues, but a good engine could cover for some of those issues, and their engine clearly is not up to the level that the Red Bull Honda or that the Ferrari is up to. So
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
that's another thing to think about. I think that really is another thing to think about.
Well, what are your 3 winners? We kind of
Yeah,
touched on some of them.
yeah, we did. I had Mercedes, I had Max, but I did
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about Haas. They are one of my winners. I know that on the stat sheet they didn't score any points, but this
Mm-hmm.
race they were consistently moving up the field. And that is
Yep.
something that Haas has not done in the last few years. They have not been the team to overtake, they have been the team to get overtaken. And it
Mm-hmm.
was really, really fun to watch Mick Schumacher, who we all kind of have high hopes for. Maybe it's in the back of our mind, but we always forget how cool it would be to see Mick really make a name for himself, not just ride the coattails of his father's name here in
Yep.
F1. And Kevin Magnussen really is the kind of the old guard come back to life. You know,
Oh yeah.
The Drauger of F1. You know, that old warrior who kind of slugged it out at Haas for so many years without seeing any success, and now is kind of getting his chance at redemption in this Haas that really feels like it has some potential to score points. He obviously doesn't finish this race, which is unfortunate, but
Mm-hmm.
if Haas did not have the issues that they did have this race, they were in the running to score some points. They were
Yeah.
in that 10th, that like 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th area. And they very easily could have scored points if not for kind of the chaos that happened towards the end of the race. So
Yeah,
unfortunate
exactly.
that they didn't score any points, but I loved what I saw from the Haas. And hopefully this kind of allows Haas to kind of settle down, because I mean, there's always been rumors of Haas leaving,
Mm-hmm.
Haas leaving F1, which I think would be bad for for multiple reasons. I mean, bad for us because we wouldn't get to see, uh, an American team on the
Yeah.
grid. I mean, I always come back, like whenever somebody asks me, "Oh, what are you watching?" or "Oh, why do you like F1 so much?" It's, I like this and that and that, and oh, there's this really cool American team that is in it, and nobody really nobody really cheers for them. So I kind of like cheering for them. So
Yeah, I
Haas has to be
agree.
one of my winners. Like I said, I know they didn't score points, but I loved what I saw from the Haas this weekend. So I'm looking forward to the future as well for them.
One thing that I think is interesting is so Kevin DNF'd. I forget exactly what caused it, but he had to retire. And then Mick kind of caused his own, 17th place or 16th place, sorry.
15th.
No, 15th. I was looking at the wrong house. 15th place. But it's interesting to see Mick because he is still young in the sport. And I think being at Haas right now is going to do him wonders. He's going to learn, he's going to learn what to do and what not to do. Because if you watch the incident between him and Vettel, I'd argue he lunged for the corner, and he defended it in the moment. I don't know what he thinks now after the fact. He could have changed his opinion. It's always different for the drivers in the moment that it's happening. Uh, but I think it's interesting to see him now finally having a car that can move up the grid. So he's getting, in my opinion, stuff he hasn't got for the last 2 years or 1 year. Where he gets to fight other cars rather than just gets to be there. So now he's learning, this is what it's like to have 3 cars around me and fighting aggressively. And I know that he was in other formulas. I'm just saying specifically in Formula One.
Sure. So Mick Schumacher crashes into Sebastian Vettel, knocking Vettel out of the race and knocking Schumacher back a few places. And then I forget how Magnussen DNF'd this race, but
I forget too.
I'll take a look while we keep talking. But let's shift a little bit, Chase, because let's talk about some losers. We did have some DNFs. I'm sure we'll touch on that. But give me your 3 losers for the weekend.
So my first loser is AlphaTauri. I don't know anything about what happened to Yuki Tsunoda. I don't know anything about it, but I know that he qualified 9th, and then pretty darn fast he was at the back of the grid, and he eventually ended 12th place, but I mean that's 5 DNFs later, someone changing a front wing, Nicholas Latifi. My point is, he ends 12th, but there's a lot of reasons as to why he got so high up. I don't know what happened with him this race, but he was at the back of the grid the whole race. And then just disappointing.
I think one of the reasons was tire drag. I think Yuki was having a really tough time with tire drag, but yeah,
interesting.
Definitely not a great race for him.
Yeah, and then just seeing the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly just getting taken out, out of his hands. He was pretty close to that barrier. He's going fast. You don't want to get closer to the barrier. And then Lando kind of sweeps him. And then, like, he doesn't immediately get out during the incident of the crash. He just then retires later because of the problems. And I was just sad to see that, they just kind of both had a bad weekend here. I always look at AlphaTauri. They're one of my favorite mid-pack teams.
Yeah, definitely. I think looking at AlphaTauri is interesting because I feel like we haven't talked about them a lot, and I think that's because they've been fairly quiet so far this season. And especially Pierre Gasly, there was so much hype coming into this season to see what Pierre Gasly would do with this new car, new regulations. He's a race winner now. I mean, what is the ceiling for this guy? And he's been very, very quiet this season. He scored points in only 2 races so far of the 5. Excuse me. He's DNF'd in 2 and then not scored in 1. So his first Bahrain, he DNF'd. He got an 8th place in Saudi Arabia, 9th place in Australia. 12th place in Imola, and then DNF'd this race. That's only a total of 6 points for the season on a guy who we thought would be higher up in the mid pack than right at the tail end. So that is definitely something I noticed this season. I haven't looked at Yuki's stats of the season. I could do that now, but generally,
Yuki scored great points last race. I don't know what he's done prior, but like last race was a really good race for Yuki.
Yeah, Imola, he scored 7th, got 6 points, and then he finished 8th in the first race of the season in Bahrain and scored 4 points. So he has 10 points now, which is almost double his teammate Pierre Gasly. But then, so at 8th place at DNF, or did not start in Saudi Arabia. 5th, because I think he crashed in qualifying. 15th in Australia, 7th in Imola, and then 12th here today. Not a lot of points between the two mid-pack drivers, and I think we definitely would have expected maybe something, a little bit more out of AlphaTauri this season.
Yeah, especially considering, sister company to Red Bull, and Red Bull's car is really good again this season, like the prior season. So you'd think with all the other teams slacking, McLaren's kind of slacking, Mercedes is slacking.
Definitely.
You'd think that the sister team, who's got the same power unit, who's got, some of the data. I don't really know what kind of data they share between the two teams, but
it's probably
got
not
a leg
a
up.
lot, but
so
certainly the power unit is a leg up. I mean, certainly.
Yeah.
Based on what that Red Bull is doing up front.
So that's my first loser. My second loser is McLaren. And I know I've dogged on them a lot this season, and they had a great race last season, but it was not there this race.
You're right.
Not at all. Like, if I pull up qualifying, I believe, so Lando qualified 8th, and then Ricardo 14th. Ricardo, not a good qualify session from him. And then you go to the race, and Lando obviously DNF'd, and you just look at Daniel Ricciardo 13th, so he gained one position. But from a McLaren, in between, the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda, which we just talked about, and then the Williams, just lackluster from McLaren again.
Very bad this week.
Yeah,
they were also one of my losers. Just never really had it this race. I don't know if it was the track, if it was the increased tire degradations, and let's be honest, it might have been a little of the off-track antics. These guys were running around doing quite a bit this weekend.
Oh yeah,
lot of extra media for the Miami Grand Prix. Who knows? I mean, look, these guys are professional athletes. They know how to, they know what their limit is, but I don't know. It might have been a little too much partying I did see Lando Norris up there with a DJ, having fun, and that's great. But let's, on Sunday, let's put in a great race, huh?
Yeah.
And I don't think Lando was really in a position to score any points when he crashed, when he DNF'd. I think he was in like 10th, 11th or 10th.
He was close to the points, but it could have gone either way.
Not close enough for a team that wants to be fighting for third. Not close enough. Not close enough. Yeah, this was a very, very bad weekend for McLaren.
Yeah. And then my third loser, it hurts me a little bit because I'm a big Red Bull fan, and we all know that here. Huge Red Bull fan here. But Perez, could not take third. And there are some caveats here. So he did lose power for a whole lap, and he was keeping up with Carlos Sainz. If you watched for the first 12 laps, he's within a second from Carlos Sainz the whole time. Never loses. You see all the other people on the track gaining and losing, time. He just stays there. And then he has the power failure. And I forget exactly what it is, and they disagreed during the moment, but then it was fixed. And he went up to 9 seconds away from Sainz, and that just kind of threw it. But then he got handed a couple golden eggs. That's why I'm kind of putting him here, because his first golden egg was Ferrari had a terrible pit stop with Sainz. They could not get that front right tire on for him. It was 5.4 seconds. So he gained, obviously roughly 5 seconds or close to it, 2-3 seconds, in the pit stop, and then safety car, bunching them back up, brand new tires, medium tires as well. So, and then he couldn't pull off that position. Great defense by Sainz, mind you.
But, but there's always a but.
Yeah.
This was not good from Sergio Perez. He didn't really have anybody coming, nobody was fighting him. George Russell was almost 9 seconds behind him.
Yeah.
Sergio, if I'm Red Bull, Sergio has to get third there. They put him in the perfect position. He pitted twice with basically no penalties for that. No, he never lost a place. He was fourth the entire race. They put him in a perfect position with 15 laps to go. Well, not 15, probably less than that.
It was roughly 10 laps to go by the time the safety car left.
Carlos Sainz is on 25 lap old hard. Sergio is on 4 lap old, and those 4 laps were safety car laps. Mediums. And Sergio's in the faster car.
Yeah. Faster car, better tires, newer tires.
If I'm Red Bull, I'm kind of shaking my head at this one, because this really is, and I love Sergio, but this is his weakness. Yeah. This is his weakness. He doesn't have the pure pace of somebody like, Max Verstappen or George Russell. He's an excellent defensive driver. He's a great driver on he's very good at tire wear. He's very good at managing that. He's a great team player, but he doesn't have the ability to just put his head down in one lap and just blow by another guy. He just can't do that. He just can't do it. And I think if you want to criticize Sergio, that is, in my opinion, the first place you start. The fact that he doesn't get, he just, like, Max Verstappen is showing how good that Red Bull can be. And there's it always seems like we're right here. Max is getting first, and then there's two Ferraris, and then there's Sergio. Red Bull needs Sergio to split those two Ferraris. They need him to do that. Otherwise, they will not be lifting the constructors. And that really is the championship that Red Bull cares about. Because Max has a world championship, but they didn't double up. They didn't get the constructors. And I know that is bugging Christian Horner. And if
it would be bugging me.
It would be bugging me. It does bug me. It's annoying. Because I wanted to see, Mercedes get fully and utterly beaten last season. And they almost did, but not quite.
Yeah.
Sergio has to start splitting those Ferraris. And if he can't, and I understand that, they did maximize their points this weekend, and that's great. But he needs to get third in this race. They put him in you couldn't ask for a better position. Every variable was there for him to get third, and I just I don't understand it. I mean, Carlos is a great driver, but there's only so much a great driver can do on 20 lap older tires, and
that are hard compound.
That are the harder compound.
In a slightly worse car, so
baffles my mind. This is a travesty for Perez.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said if I'm Red Bull, he needs to get third. I'm with you. I was sitting there in the last 10 laps, and I'm like, this is terrible for Red Bull to let two Ferraris be on the podium. Like, it put Bottas on the podium, and it's better for Red Bull, So he needed to be there, and I'm with you. He needs to start splitting them because Leclerc and Sainz, they're both good drivers. So, and you saw that here with Sainz. I mean, Sainz was never really close to Leclerc or Verstappen, but he did what he needed to, which was not let Perez
Sergio
pass.
By.
Yeah, and arguably he could have done more by not letting Verstappen by, but that's a different subject. One thing I want to briefly touch upon is this race and this kind of season is just showing me that, and I kind of already knew this, but it's really nice to see it. In my opinion, how much better Verstappen and Leclerc are from their two teammates.
Yeah.
They were not close to their teammates at all. If you watch the race, like 30 laps in, like Leclerc is 7 seconds from like Verstappen, and then like 12 seconds from Sainz, 17 seconds from Sainz. That's so big in the same car. And so it's just showing me that Max and Leclerc are the superstars this year. They're just so much better than their teammates.
Yeah, they're absolutely on a different level than their teammates. I mean,
and I don't mean that as a diss to their teammates. I mean that as a compliment to them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we knew Max was the number one driver. I mean, he's the reigning world champion. We knew, like, he's the golden boy. This is Max's world, and we're all just living in it. But there was a lot of contention between the two Ferrari drivers at the beginning of the season. I know I felt it. I know we were like, does Ferrari have a number one driver? And I think we're starting to see that they do, and it's Charles Leclerc. He just has the it factor that Carlos doesn't. And I love Carlos. Like I said, I think he's a great guy, and he deserves to have that Ferrari seat. He's a very, very good driver. I think we saw that. It takes a very, very good driver to do what he did, to hold Sergio off for as long as he did. But Charles Leclerc is just, he has that championship, that world championship it factor. And I don't know if Carlos has it. Maybe he'll get it. Maybe next season we're having it for a conversation. But so far this season, Charles has dominated in that Ferrari. So
yeah, I was gunning for Carlos for most of the start of this season so far, right? But now, I mean, I could only ignore the fact that Leclerc was doing better, so much before I had to finally give in. But I'm not with you. I think Leclerc's the number one driver, and it's pretty clear, I think, at this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, my three losers were pretty similar to yours. I did have Sergio Perez. I did have my guys at McLaren, but one that you didn't touch on, and one that I think needs to be talked about because there was so much kind of, there was it's Aston Martin. Okay, this was a really, 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 really bad race from Aston Martin. Once again, Lance Stroll did score points, which is their first point of the season, I do believe, right?
No, it's their second. Well, how many? It's their second race that they've scored points.
Second, okay,
I
they
don't know
did
how many
score.
points they have.
I can't remember. Because I remember they were like the last team to score points. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Sebastian
and it was
Vettel
last race. So
scored points last race, but 1 point from Aston Martin and a DNF, which to be fair was not. It was kind of Sebastian's fault. Well, yeah,
it's on the fence. It's we'll just say it a racing incident. We'll call it a racing incident.
We'll call it a racing incident. But they started this race out very poorly. I don't know. Their start was just terrible. They dropped down and were like immediately at the back of the pack.
Do you know why?
No, I don't know why. What happened?
They both started from the pit.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what caused it, but they had to unfill their cars with gas and then refill them.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't know what caused it, but that it was outside of the, regulations of when they're allowed to do that, and they knew but they had to do it.
They had to.
Okay. So they had to take the penalty of starting from the pits.
Okay, well that makes sense.
So they started dead last off the bat. Like, couldn't get any further last.
Anyway, but Aston Martin, with as much money as they are putting into this, and I'm sure they are putting a lot, and I'm sure the other teams are putting a lot, but Aston Martin is an absolute, an iconic brand. Yep. And this is not what Aston Martin had imagined on their. I think this is the first time they've had a team in Formula One. Am I correct on that? I didn't do my research. I believe so, yeah. I'm a terrible podcast host. I didn't do all my research. But I believe this is their kind of first time. I know they've like sponsored some teams, but this is the first time really, slapping their kind of logo on an actual team. And this is not what they had in common, or not what they had in common, what they had in mind coming into it. So I will be interested to see how much pressure kind of gets put on. I believe Lance's father is kind of heading the team, isn't he, Lawrence Stroll? He's kind of he kind of runs the team.
He's strong arming it at the very least.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if this run of form continues for Aston Martin, how much longer we see them in Formula One. Because I've seen headlines. You've got Porsche wanting to get in, and I believe another large car brand also has expressed interest in joining as a team. And who knows? I mean, if Aston Martin can't get their stuff together, we might see them gone in a season or two.
Yeah, I agree, and we've talked about this whole season. They have way too much money for what's happening to be acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's get an update on the drivers' standings, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
We've got Charles Leclair still in first, but the gap is closing. Max Verstappen is in second with 85 points. Sergio Perez also jumps up. I don't know. I can't remember. Sergio Perez is now in third with 66 points. George Russell in the Mercedes up in fifth with 59 points. Carlos Sainz right behind him in fifth. George Russell was in fourth. Carlos Sainz is in fifth with 53 points. Lewis Hamilton in the second Mercedes with 36 points. Right behind him is Lando Norris in seventh with 35. Valtteri Bottas in eighth with 30. Esteban Ocon in fourth. And Kevin Magnussen in the Haas with 15 points. He is beating Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren, both AlphaTauris, both Williams is obviously his teammate by quite a bit because Mick Schumacher has not scored points yet this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Ricciardo only having 11 points and being in 11th place is not what McLaren wants to see. Most definitely. That is not what they want to see.
Yeah. I agree.
And now for the teams, once again, Ferrari's still on top, but that gap is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They have only a 6-point lead now on Red Bull. Ferrari has 157 points. Red Bull has 151. The third closest, the third place is Mercedes with 95, and right there in fourth, where they want to be, although they like to be up in third, is McLaren. Fifth place, Alfa Romeo, mostly on the back of Valtteri Bottas. They're in fifth with 31. Sixth place, Alpine, 26 points. AlphaTauri with 16. Haas with 15. Aston Martin with 6 points. And Williams now in last with 3 points. So Williams is in last. You've had only, I believe, Alex Albon scoring points for them this season.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that's right. I don't want to slag off Lance Stroll if I don't.
No. It would. You said Williams. It would be
Williams.
Latifi.
Excuse me. Latifi has not scored points. He is one of only 2 active drivers. Nico Hulkenberg is the third driver that hasn't scored points. He did, of course, race for Sebastian Vettel when Vettel was out with COVID. But Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi both have not scored points yet this season, which is kind of interesting. Yep. 2 guys one guy, Mick Schumacher, I would have expected to score some points, but be that as it may, it's getting closer. Red Bull, with another good weekend, has closed the gap even more, but there's still a pretty significant gap. 20 points is pretty good, which is mostly due to Max being Max and crashing out of races.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
Well, and one thing to note here, the only 2 drivers to switch positions in the top 10 drivers standing is Hamilton this week past Norris. Besides that, everyone else is in the same position, just with more points.
Got it. Interesting. That is interesting. Okay, Chase, what would you like to talk about? We're in the free roam territory now. What would you like to talk about?
Well, yeah. you shouldn't give me that much power. No, I'm joking. Let's start off with the track. What do you think? What do you think about the track?
The track was very mid. It was mid. It had its moments, but overall, I don't know. It was okay. I didn't hate it.
I tend to agree, but push it a little more towards away from the middle, more towards good. But I'm kind of with you. It wasn't big wildin', as the kids say.
Big wildin'.
And yeah, I mean, I was talking to my dad earlier, and I was like, if someone crashes during the race, they might have to red flag it. And then lo and behold, someone crashed, and I was like, are they going to have to red flag this? Because it's a tight track. You see that a lot with the street circuit tracks. They're pretty tight. And luckily, Norris crashed right in front of the alcove, so we didn't have to red flag it. But I was not looking forward to that red flag. But I feel like it would be a shame on us as hosts of the show to not do the common theme, which is mention the fake water.
The fake water. I thought that was cool. I like when I liked the way the track looked. I didn't necessarily like the track itself. I loved the palm trees, the fact that it was right close to a road, so you could see other cars going, and how seeing them pass a semi truck on the road, just how much faster they were going was kind of fun to me. So I like that part of the track. I really do like the way the track looked. It's just the layout that I think could be tweaked a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting to watch.
I think I also really like that it's centered around that Hard Rock Cafe building. It makes it look great on the helicopter shots. And I really did like the whole Miami Yacht Club, I think is what it's called. I liked that part of it. I just really wish they had filled it with water. I mean, with how much money is surrounding this, you just throw the charge of the water on the yacht people. Just say, hey, you have to pay for the water filling this. And they can complain. But it's just, it was so lame because, we'll go to Monaco eventually, where you have real water, real yachts. Not that these yachts weren't real, but you get what I'm saying, you know. And it just feels like imitation of Monaco, but like done poorly. I like everything about it but the fake water.
It might have been a little cheesy, but you know what? It's America. We love cheese.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll throw another subject. What do you think about the helmets for this race?
I liked pretty much everybody's helmet. I liked on Twitter Guan Yu Zhou's. His was very
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
The one helmet that I didn't like, and I didn't understand like why he did it, was Lando Norris's basketball helmet. It was kind of weird because like I don't think of like Miami as like a basketball. It kind of is, like they do like the Heat down there. It's their NBA
Yeah,
team, of
Miami
course.
Heat's a pretty big team.
But like basketball, like okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know Lando Norris was a fan of basketball.
yeah, it was kind of weird seeing him being a fan of basketball, like you said.
Yeah, but
But
I generally liked the helmets. I thought they all looked pretty good.
yeah, I thought they were cool, and then I liked the whole concept of it, which I didn't necessarily catch the concept perfectly, but it seemed like they were doing some sort of competition with like best designed helmet. I don't know too much about that, but I like that whole concept where it's like, you know, we see them dress up the cars for Monaco, you know, in different liveries and stuff like that. It's cool to
Yeah,
see, you know, drivers do something as a group. Um, but what's something you want to talk about?
I actually want to talk about your third point. You wanted to talk about
Oh,
right the jewelry ban.
yeah. Uh-huh.
I do kind of want to talk about that because that's something that I thought was interesting, and I didn't like the way that some of the drivers responded to it. I uh, this kind of I know what they're going for. They're going for we want to be very professional. This is like a top tier sport. We want to present and be very very classy. And I think
Hmm.
like I can understand that and I can empathize with that, but I don't care about your sport being classy. You want your sport to be entertaining.
I
And
agree.
in order for your sport to be entertaining, who do you need to be the most entertaining? You need your drivers to be interesting. You want people to support your drivers. You want people to support the teams that those drivers drive for. And so you want your drivers to be as entertaining as possible. Now, does that necessarily mean they have to wear jewelry? No, but some people, yes. I mean, obviously, everybody was kind of talking about how this was mostly targeted at Lewis Hamilton, and
Hmm.
it kind of is. The
Yeah.
guy wears a lot of jewelry, but but they respond by like overemphasizing it, and I think that's
Yep.
silly. I think that's childish. The thing that you do is you don't change, because I think that this what they did was wrong. I don't agree with it. But if you just kept doing what you were always doing, and then they fine you a couple times, and then you can just go, has anything really changed?
Hmm.
Did anything really change? No, of course not. But he shows up with like 3 watches and like a bunch of necklaces, and I'm like, dude, come on, really? Like
I
you're kind
think.
of you're kind of doing you're making your point, but it's very unclassy. I don't know. There was an element to it where I was like, if you just kept wearing the normal stuff that you wear, nobody would care. Everyone would go, he's just doing the exact same thing he's doing. Why are you like you know banning him for doing something that he's always done? So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on it.
So to throw my thoughts into the ring. So first of all, for those who don't fully know, the FIA recently banned jewelry for the drivers, um, for safety. And when I say that last part, for safety, you might think, oh, they banned them from wearing it in the car. Makes sense because they specifically said during accidents and in case of fires that, you know, you might say, oh, well, that makes sense. What's the big deal
Sure.
with this?
Yeah.
Um, the big deal comes with it is what I'd like to call a blanket ban, where like they said you're not allowed to wear jewelry on the weekend, like
Yeah.
the entirety of it during press conferences, on, you know, just whatever it is, you're not allowed to wear jewelry, and that's where I think it's out of hand. Yeah, you don't want a guy wearing a necklace in a car,
I
and
don't
you
think
know, then it gets caught.
I don't think any driver wears anything in the car.
They don't.
Lewis might wear earrings.
He does, yeah.
But
no one wears necklaces or watches. Yeah, they're not that dumb.
Because it's like it's extra weight.
It's extra weight.
These guys are like all about weight. Their weights themselves, the car's weight.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wouldn't be throwing on like an extra gold. Like Daniel Ricciardo's not throwing on an extra gold chain.
Yeah, and like a watch
to hop in the car.
That'd be so hard to drive with how close the cockpit is. But anyway, so like the problem comes when they say you're not allowed to wear jewelry at all during the weekend. It's not like the safety issues that the problem arises from. So that's my first problem. One, they're banning it just entirely. I think that's dumb because, like you said, no driver's dumb enough to wear them in the car.
Yeah.
And then who cares during a press conference whether Lewis Hamilton has 3 watches or not? You think it's kind of unclassy. I could probably agree that it's not really that classy of him to do, but I'm glad that he did it. He's making a point of like, hey, this is idiotic. What are you doing? Why are you punishing me for being me? I mean, Lewis is huge into fashion. And like you said, it's almost directly targeted at Lewis.
Yeah, it kind of is. I think it goes back to my first point, which was like, you want your drivers. Baseball, actually, I'm a big baseball fan, and last season there was kind of this like, the league wanted the players to celebrate a little bit more. They wanted it to be a little bit more exciting. They wanted the players to express themselves. That was kind of the key word. We want you to express yourselves. And there was, some people were like, okay, awesome, cool, great. And so they started kind of creating their own brands. And then MLB turned around and was like, oh, no, you can't do that. And so people were like, what? Like, you wanted us to express ourselves. You wanted us to market ourselves. Like, why are you now turning around? And this is in a same vein, I think. It's kind of like, we want you to be interesting and exciting people, but like, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So
we have Rolex as a like title sponsor of the entire sport, but if you can't wear a Rolex, we will find you $250,000, which, mind you,
that's a lot of money.
Nothing to these drivers. It's a lot of money to us. But Lewis is making like 30 million this year, roughly. Just estimating, he made roughly 30 million last year. And the year before that, it's nothing. If Lewis gets fined a bunch of times, he's not gonna care. You're gonna have to kick him out of the sport, for him to actually care. And mind you, by the way, he does have currently like a 3-race haven with the jewelry, because he has piercings and stuff. They said we'll give you like a certain amount of time to remove the piercings, but I still think that's dumb. It's like saying you can't get a tattoo. It's like, oh, hold up, why are you living my life for me?
Yeah, a little bit. I generally disagree with it, but I can understand where they're coming from.
I just don't think it needs to be a blanket ban. Ban it in the cars. Say no watches, no necklaces, X, Y, and Z in the car. But who cares at a conference table?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on and let's talk about next week. Well, not I don't know if it's next week, but let's take
next race.
Next race. Miami was this week, and May 20th through the 22nd. So that is in 2 weeks. Yep. We've got this week off once again, and next week we are in Spain and Barcelona, the Circuit de Barcelona, Barcelona de Catalunya, a tried and true track. Most people don't like this track; they think it's bad. I tend to agree. Yeah, they say it's like it's just not that good of a track. It's kind of boring.
I could see it.
I tend to agree. We had our first Grand Prix here in 1991, 66 laps. And the lap record is held by Max Verstappen. He set it last season, a 1:18.149. The last time we were here, Max did not win, which is interesting, but he did get the fastest lap. Lewis Hamilton takes first in the Mercedes, Max Verstappen in second, and Valtteri Bottas takes third. Charles Leclerc fourth in the Ferrari. That was a pretty good weekend for him. So let's now shift and talk about last week's predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Had a couple interesting ones. We did flub while we were. I messed up. I put this solely on myself. Our weekend winners, we had decided if you got it right, that was a plus 3 points, and not a plus 1. I originally had calculated it as a plus 1, so our totals have changed. But I have all of the calculations right this week. So
Mm-hmm.
up until this week, Chase was at 14 for the adjusted total, and I was at 19. Once again, unadjusted total, so I was 5 points up. And after this weekend, I have a little bit more of a gap. So Chase,
Mm-hmm.
last week your podium predictions were Max in first, which you got head on.
Yep.
You had Sergio Perez in second, which was your Red Bull fan coming out. That of course gets
Yep.
you no points.
Mm-hmm.
And Russell was your kind of wild man bet, which I enjoyed that you said, but did not end up getting.
It could have happened.
It could have happened, but it probably was never going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's another 0 points. But you did pick the correct weekend winner, Red Bull. They scored the
Mm-hmm.
most points. They scored a few more points than Ferrari this time out, which I was surprised at because I originally had thought neither of us got it correct because I also
Mm-hmm.
chose Red Bull. But Chase, before we started recording, was like, hey, I got that right. I need my 3 points.
Well, I saw you had them as a team too, and I was just like, I wanted my 3 points, and I know you'd want them, so
I would, of course,
after the race, I sat down with the calculator. I was like, who got more points, Ferrari or Red Bull?
I of course was a little bit closer. I had Max in first with 3, or Max in first. That of course gets me 3 points, right position and on the podium. And I had Charles second, right position and on the podium. I did, of course, unfortunately, have Sergio Perez third. That was my inner Red Bull fan coming out, which gets me 0 points. But my weekend winner was also Red Bull. So Chase scores 6 points this weekend, bringing his total up to 20 points. And I score 9 points, bringing my total up to 28 points. So there's now an 8-point gap in the championship. But it's still all to play for. I mean, we've got so many races left.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be neck and neck, I think, the whole way.
Hopefully. Makes it more interesting, right?
Absolutely. I believe that we placed a bet on this, and you can tell me not to, but I believe we kind of said that the winner has to buy the loser a hat of their team of choice.
Yeah.
So mine, of course, would be McLaren, and yours, of course, would be Red Bull. So
yeah,
that I would be willing to do. So
yeah, I'm definitely willing to do that. Makes it a little
sounds
fun.
good. So let us now take a look towards the next race and give me your podium predictions for next race, Chase.
So my podium predictions, looking at like the history of this, the Spanish Grand Prix, Max has been pretty good at this track, even in the years that he wasn't in a good car. So,
yep.
And I think Max is just right now just the most dominant person skill wise, in the sport right now. So I'm gonna go Max number 1. I'm gonna go Charles number 2, because Charles, being on a non-championship fighting team, has done pretty good on this track in the past. And he's racing out of his mind right now. So
yeah, very good.
And then I actually think that we're gonna see a repeat of this week at Miami, where Sainz stays in third, or somehow gets in third and keeps it from Perez.
Okay.
And then I don't know my weekend winner yet. So if you want to go, I want to think about my weekend winner.
Okay, yeah. I am going to switch it up a little bit because we've talked about how chaotic Max has been. So I am going to do something a little risky. And this could either make or this could break me. I'm not going to place Max at first because I am going to call that Max crashes. Max and Charles get into it. Maybe Max places on pole and Max and Charles get into it first lap. Max spins out. I'm going to have Charles in first. I'm going to have Carlos in second. And I'm going to put your man, George Russell, in third. I think George is due for a podium. And I think this weekend he could get it. This is a track he knows very well. He's raced here a lot. Most of these guys have raced here a lot.
Yeah,
but I
it's an
think
old
that
track.
George Russell could take third. I know this is a bit of a ballsy play. You went with the safe play. I'm going with a little bit more ballsy play.
That's fair.
Which could just say something about you, could say something about me. Who knows? But my weekend winner is going to be Ferrari with those top two.
I think.
And give your weekend winner.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with you on Ferrari. I think, actually, no. Let me think. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Red Bull because if Perez stays in this, I really don't think with the current state of their car that anyone else on the grid could really beat Perez. That wouldn't already be on the podium. So I think Perez places fourth again.
Okay.
Doing that weekend winner because I don't know. What do you think? I think Ferrari and Red Bull's cars are Mercedes and Red Bull from last year. I think they're not even close to the grid.
Yeah, I generally tend to agree with you. I think yeah. I don't really have any more thoughts. I think we could excuse me. I think we could probably call it there, don't you think, Chase?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Chase. Well, I will see you after the 2021 Circuit de Barcelona, the Formula One, Armaco, Gran Premio de España, 2022, in Spain. So I will see you then, and have a great one.
Yep. See you.